And what that means is this funding opportunity announcement ends, I believe, tomorrow. And so you're required by PGO to submit a final progress report. I believe it's due at the end of December. And you should have received instructions from PGO. Ann Major can address that later. But I also wanted to introduce the team. So I'm on the call. Ann Major is also on the call, and Julie Townsend from the Comprehensive Cancer Control Branch. And we'll be able to provide some program guidance as we move forward. Denise Best, who is a program analyst with Northrop Grumman, she's actually going to conduct the training today. And what we will do is we'll walk through the requirements for the progress report. This should look very familiar to you as far as reporting your progress, updating the tabs, etc. The only really serious change is when we get into the reports tab. We'll stop during the training after each section and open the lines up for questions. Feel free to ask whatever it is you need, and then at the end we'll also open up for any kind of questions we have. Any questions before we get started? Again, I apologize for the confusion with the dial-in number. All right, Denise, you want to go ahead and start?
Okay, yeah, great. Thanks, Vicki. My name is Denise Best. I'm with Northrop Grumman. And like Vicki said, we're going to go over the process for creating the FPR. I did provide a PowerPoint slides for those of you that may want to look at it later. It includes this agenda. We're going to go over the high-level view of what the different tabs are on SIDMA's application. Then we're going to go through the process of creating a report, and that includes reviewing errors, updating progress records, updating report status, and then being able to print your final report. At this time, I'm going to switch over to the live system, and then I'll just reference what pages on the PowerPoint if you're looking at that. So for purposes today, we're going to use Minnesota as the recipient when you come in. And, as you get ready to do the report, one thing that we normally advise is to go back through your existing information and just review what you have, make sure it's up to date and complete for what you're trying to accomplish. So on the Program Information tab, you would just review the contact information page to make sure that these positions are still held by these people. And on the program summary, just make sure the executive summary is what you want to complete. So, Vicki, do you have any comments on program information?
Yes. This is Lucretia McKenzie. We are seeing the PowerPoint at this time. Just switch that. And also we have a comment to please speak up a little louder. Thank you.
Okay, now you should be able to see the Program Information tab.
Yes, we do now.
Can you make the screen a little bigger, Denise?
Sure. How's that look?
That's a little better, thank you.
Okay, the next tab that you would look at would be the resources, and that has the sub-tabs of personnel, policy task force work group, partners, and contract consultants. And again, you would just review the information of the resources that you've recorded that are their emails and who's working on your project and who your partners are on this page and who your contracts and consultants are. Vicki, did you have anything to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Denise. I'm not sure if everybody heard, but we want you again to start with the Program Information tab and update each one of those sections, including under Resources, Personnel, Policy, Partners, Contracts, and Consultants. Any questions about that? Anything else to add, Julie or Ann?
This is Julie Townsend, and just a reminder, it's important to have all this information up to date because we will be running data pulls from SIMMIS for the performance measures, and we'll do that in December when the final report is due. So, we want y'all to meet your performance measures, so having the most up-to-date information is very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann, anything to add?
No, not at this time.
Okay. So again, you just want to make sure you update, if you have any personal members that are no longer active, et cetera. All right, Denise, we can go on to the financial tab.
Okay, great. The financial tab has two sub-tabs, the leverage funds and the in-kind. This first one is the leverage funds. And the second one is the in-kind, where you would record your contributions. Did you have anything else for that, Vicki?
Yes, thank you. Again, I want to make sure you update this section. This section is really important. And again, Julie will be doing a data pull from this. So it's really important to look at leverage funds, which are the actual dollars that have come into the program, external from CDC funding. And then your in-kind are basically donations of time, labor, space, printing, et cetera. Please update those for your final year. As you know, you didn't do an interim progress report, so this would be your totals for the entire year. Make sure you update those because that really does show us and our stakeholders the support that we are receiving outside of CDC funding. Any questions from anybody on the line about what we're looking for under these first three tabs?
Hi, this is Marion from Florida. In some years, we haven't had any leverage dollar funds, so then do we put down zero?
I'm not sure if the system lets you, but if you don't have anything, you can leave it blank.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
We have a lot of in-kind, however.
That's perfect. Make sure you update that because it's really an important number, especially when we look across all 13 programs. Any other questions? Julie or Ann, do you have anything to add?
I was going to add, we do pull earned media from in-kind, so definitely if you do get in-kind media donations to add those in.
Great suggestion, Julie. Thank you. Anybody? Anything to add? Okay, great. We're going to move on then to the planning tab. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. On the planning tab, there are three sub-tabs. So the first one is the data sources, and this is where there's a long list of data sources available, and you can select the ones that you're using in your program and the most current data set year. If you have things outside of that list, you can always add them down in the other data sources section. Again, it asks for the most recent year collected. And these records are also used later in action plan to reference back to data sources that are being used. The evaluation sub-page is where you would upload your evaluation documentation. It's really just a repository here. And the same with the plans and logic models. There's a place where you can provide plans and logic model type information, and there's a couple different things they have here. Let's see, I guess anything else on that, Donna? Vicki?
Denise, can you open up the evaluation page?
Yeah.
I think it's important to go through this. Can you click on evaluation add? Denise, can you click on, yeah, there we go. Thank you. Again, don't skip this section. You want to make sure you include anything around your requirement for evaluation. So if you have an evaluation plan, and then if you have an evaluation report, again, answer all of the questions, and then make sure you save. Again, this is a key performance measure that Julie will be looking for. Any questions about evaluation or about the planning tab in general? Julie, or Ann, do you have anything to add before we move on to reporting progress?
Just want to let everyone know to also upload evaluation reports too, because not only are we looking at the data for performance measures, but also too it's SIDMIS is a secondary data source for our overall program evaluation of 1017.
Thank you, that's helpful. Ann, do you have anything to add?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, then we're going to go ahead and move on to the action plan tab. And again, this is where you're going to report your progress, and we'll actually walk you through those screens specifically. Thank you.
Yes, that's right, Vicki. The action plan is, where you put it all together. This program has several PPOs in place, and you can expand this tree over here and see what's under the first PPO without having to go into the details on the other side. So it kind of gives you a high-level view that's easy to see, okay, do I have progress or activity under these items? On the right-hand side, the green highlight here shows which one you're currently looking at on the right-hand panel, and that shows the project period objective, which is the multi-year objective, and any progress that is associated with that record, and then the supporting annual objectives that are there for this year. And you notice we're in the 14-15 year up here. When you go to the show details, you can see all the supporting records under the annual objective. They have the progress, activities, and products. Let's see, for the report generation, we go to the reports tab, and we will end up coming back here and doing work in this action plan page. Was there anything you want to talk about in action plan before we look at the reports, Vicki?
Yeah, I think it's helpful from a logical standpoint. So go to the action plan tab, and you're going to ask you to report progress for every project period objective and every annual objective. So if you could walk them through that first, Denise, before we move on to the reports tab, I think that's helpful.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so we already have one on this one, but this objective, you can view the content of the PPO that's been already entered and see what the objective was and the information and detail on that, what was being measured. And you do have the SMART statement here that it tells you what was being measured. So any activities and efforts towards that, you can enter into this progress record. So this is the PPO progress. It's not having to do with individual annual goals, but more the overall goal. So it does repeat the PPO SMART statement at the top. It has you pick the progress period, whether or not the objective target was met or not, if you know the measurement. So you have to either supply a measurement, or you can have the option of saying it was unknown. You can't do both. Then you have a free field text for describing what your progress is, the factors of your success, any barriers that you encountered during your effort, and any plans to overcome those barriers. And then also an unrequired field. This one doesn't have the little red asterisk, so he's not required. Unanticipated outcome resulting from the objective. So
a question.
Yeah. So all the other fields are required except for that last one.
Hi, this is Vicki. Someone had a question?
Yeah, hi, thanks. This is Marion from Florida. I saw that you had to go back and input the first 6 months. So for our final progress report, are we using that first
No, you are not. So,
Okay.
Denise, can you show them they need to select the second 6 months, but in that include all of your progress for the entire year?
Okay.
Check the second.
Yeah, this is actually a problem in the system, but it's all it's going to do is give you a warning. You can override it. I was going to go further into it when we got to the report part, but because in our efforts here with being at FPR, we're not doing the IPR, the interim, this time, and the SIDMA system was kind of expecting that, so it thinks the next one due is the first 6 months. So. But for the FPR, what you really want is, like she's saying, the second. So it's just a little glitch in the system where we need to pick second, and it'll give us the warning and override that.
And I also had just a recommendation where it talks about current measurement. And even though the system allows you to say unknown at this time, we would prefer that you have your measures because this is the end of the FOA. And again, when you look at your project period objectives, those are your 5-year long-term objectives. So it'll be really important for your program consultant and the performance measures work group to actually be able to see at the end of this 5 years if you were able to achieve your objective. So in this case, if the related PPO for this example talks about moving the measure from 0 to 6, it's important to show what your final measurement is. You know, let's say it ended up at 4. Even though you're allowed to select unknown, we strongly encourage you not to do that. We think it's critical for you and for us to see where we landed after the 5 years. Any questions about reporting progress for your project period objective? Julie or Ann, do you have anything to add?
This is Julie. I don't have anything to add.
Thank you. All right, Denise, let's go on.
Either.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Let's go on to showing them the annual progress as well.
Okay. So here's an annual objective, and it is, supporting of the PPO up there, and we need to show progress on that one because that is for this current budget year. So it shows you the SMART statement of the annual objective here. And you pick the second 6 months and say whether or not you met it. Provide your measurement. And then you have a free text box for describing your progress, any partner contributions that included activities that supported your progress, and the other factors, barriers, and plans to overcome. Same as you saw on the PPO progress. So this is reporting back to just the yearly objective. Okay, Vicki.
I wanted to remind everybody that there is a timeout feature in the MIS. It's 45 minutes, and at the 35-minute mark, you're going to get a pop-up reminder letting you know that you've got 10 minutes left before you're going to lose your data. Now, what's critical about this is even if you're typing in these text boxes, until you save in a particular section, the system doesn't recognize that. So if you've been typing for 45 minutes but you haven't saved your page, the system's going to time you out. So if you're in the middle of filling this out, you get interrupted, you go help a coworker come back, you may lose the data you have if you have not saved. That's really important. We don't want you to lose your work. So we have 2 recommendations. One is that you do all of the research you need to do around the progress for each of your objectives in advance so you have all the paperwork you need. And if you want to go ahead and put it in a Word document and then you can copy and paste it in, or you can work in the system, but if you know you're going to get up and leave for even a few minutes, go ahead and put something in each of the boxes, whether it's, NA or 2BD or test or something, to save that spot and make sure you save the page so you don't lose anything if you get timed out after 45 minutes. And that rule applies across the MIS. But we find that the progress section is the section that it really gets more important. Any questions about reporting progress for your AOs or your PPOs?
Before you move off of this tab, this is Marion from Florida. Can you go up to the top of the screen, please, where it says download can you go over download action plan report and download action plan summary and download action plan hierarchy?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Denise, we can actually show you some examples, but what these are 3 versions of your action plan. The first one being download your action plan report is your complete action plan with all of the background information that we have collected. So that's going to be the longest, most detailed report. The action plan summary is basically like a Cliff Notes version. It's going to give you a more brief outline of your action plan, including the PPOs, the AOs, the activities, and it might even include who's supposed to be providing that support. The action plan hierarchy is the most briefest version. It's going to only show you the PPO, the AO, and the activities, nothing else. And those have been available, all along. That really is separate from reporting your progress, but they are just options for looking at your action plans.
Yes,
that makes sense?
I've really been using those tabs, so.
Excuse me?
Thanks. I realized I hadn't really been accessing those tabs.
Oh, that's a shame, because it actually just provides you a typewritten report of your action plan.
I will this time.
One of the things, and you see Denise is doing it on the screen, is the system actually will run the report, but it offloads it onto a different server. So you'll have to go up to that My Report section, and then that's where you actually can print it if you want to print it off, or to actually pull it up and look at it on the screen. I actually recommend to my programs that they print it off, and that really is their to-do list for the year that we're working on, and they should have that list with them. And when we have our monthly calls, it's been available, and we kind of review it and talk about how things are going for each of their objectives. So you can see she's showing a small version of the minimum report with just the PPOs, the AOs, and the activities. One of the other recommendations I make to my programs is when you're reporting your annual progress, we don't ask you to report progress specifically for each activity. But I like to see, as a program consultant, I'd like you to use those activities as kind of milestones and kind of include information about those activities in that progress you're reporting. It's helpful for me as a program consultant to see if you were able to achieve some of those milestones. Again, looking to see if we are actually able to achieve the annual objective and what it took for that to happen. So again, we don't ask you to specifically report progress for each activity, but it's helpful if you include information, if you look at those activities as milestones for you to achieve your AO, and then incorporate information about those in your text. Any other questions about reporting progress for your PPOs or your AOs? Julie, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Ann?
Okay.
All right, great. We're going to move on to reports.
Okay, I do want to point out that this queue up here does hold this report that I had generated, but it's only a one-time download. So if you don't save it off, it would not be there again. So that's one reason to just go ahead and save it and view it. You can always, regenerate easily, but just so you know. Okay, over on the reports tab, we are looking at the two sublinks. Normally we have the annual report here, And because we're in the last year, we now see final performance report. The default is the left-hand menu, but it is going to be, on the training environment, I went ahead and set it to be past due, but I believe your due date is today, so by tomorrow it should show past due for you in production. Because as you know, these two links, only one of them is able to be active at a time, so if this was still active, you wouldn't be able to do your FPR. So now that it's past due, I can move over to that. But it will still default to this one, so you want to make sure to select that final performance report. So if I move off and come back, I'm going to have to select final performance report again. So just double check that. And it does have here a title over your steps of final report, and it's in draft mode.
Hi, Denise. Can we stop for a second? I want to make sure everybody's really clear on that step. Again, the system is going to default to interim report because it doesn't know that we're in our final year and that we didn't do one. So when you get in, you'll see it's going to be in black will be interim report. You want to switch that over to the final performance report. Any questions about that? Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, this is Marion from Florida. All of a sudden my link just disappeared. Can I just call back in or load it back up? Did that happen to anybody else?
No.
Okay, thanks. It's just me.
Do you want us to wait for you?
No, thanks. Just go ahead. I'll listen carefully, and I'll call you, Vicki, if I have questions.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, and if you have that PowerPoint, you can look at 15, page 15, and see. Ooh. Okay. So once we pick the final performance report, the first step is to review errors in your action plan. And so the system goes and looks, do you have the required supporting records for each of the PPO and AO? The PPO must have a progress entered, and the AO must have a progress, but it also must have an activity. So when you come in, you may see a lot of red exclamation marks. That means you're missing the red.
Whoops.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Now
can hear
we
you.
can. We were cut off.
Oh, no. That's weird. Okay. Should I start over then?
Yes, please.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. Okay, this is the final report area, the step number 1. In this step, we're reviewing errors in your current action plan. So the system evaluates each PPO and AO to see if you have the minimum required records. So we see here the first PPO, and then indented under it are the annual objectives that are associated with it. When you look over to the right, you see progress entered as a question, and the green means there is a record out there for that. The red exclamation means there's not. So as we see, the PPO needs a progress, but the AO needs a progress and an activity. So when you come to this page, any place you see a red exclamation, that record needs to be supplied before you're able to proceed. So the way they recommend doing this, I mean, the system will allow you to do it from this page, but they recommend you going to the action plan itself. So you can look and see, okay, PPO number 3, the first annual objective under that 3.1 doesn't have a progress. So we can go back to the action plan page and supply that. Did you want to say anything else about this so far, Vicki?
You know, I just realized one of the things that we didn't cover, if you could go back to the action plan for the one that is missing the progress, I'd like to show them also about adding products. So under the annual objective section, we're going to report your progress. There's also a section where you can add products. This is not a new feature. This is something that we've had available, but I'd like to remind everyone, again, if you have products that you built that support that particular annual objective, please attach them here. It's really helpful to your program consultant. For instance, if you had a brochure that you created, or if you had some kind of a meeting or a summit and you had documents from that summit or a poster session you created that supports an annual objective, please enter them here. Okay, Denise.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. So this was the one that was missing, and as you can see in this left tree, you can see the progress 0. So we know he's missing. Come into here, and we can add the progress. So this is technically the second period that we're reporting, but we're going to probably get that message and have to say it's okay because the problem I told you with the system. So make sure you select the second, because the reports tab over here is checking that you have a progress for the second period. So if you supply progress and then see that it's still red over on the reports, that's because it really wants it to be the second period. Sorry for that, but at least it's not hard. It's just trying to make sure that we're thinking, okay, we're doing it for the second 6 months. Okay, then you have like we talked before, the objective target met, the target measurement that you have currently, and then you provide information here. And there is spell checking you can do if you're typing things in here. If you do paste in information from another document, then make sure that you don't have a lot of formatting on that text, or it will stay here and show up on your report as different than the other text, and you may not want it to look like that, so just keep that in mind. So all these are required except for the last one is not. So I save my progress record, and it shows up here. This is first 6 months. Did I not make it? Now when I go to the first step on the report page, I have to go to FPR, see I even fell for that one. Okay, now I see all green check marks because I supplied that last progress record. So once everything's green, we can move on and say that we're satisfied with this content. We can finish step 1. So now we're on the final report. It shows step 1 has been completed and step 2 is now active. Step 2 is to enter your report narrative text. So this page is just really text only, and it wants just sort of your summary about your report. Describe the most significant accomplishments, the most significant challenges, and lesson learned for advancing that type of program, and what were the number and types of subrecipient organizations funded. You can enter not applicable here. Then further down we have the primary contact information, and this is so that once your program is closed out and somebody may have a question about how something was done or wanting more detail, it just sort of is a placeholder for somebody that they might be able to contact in the short term after it's closed out to get more detail. So they ask that you provide 2 contact names and telephone, and how long you think that would be valid for, 6 months, a year. Okay, I'll go ahead and fill this in. Vicki, did you have anything you want to add here?
Hi. Yeah, again, remember that we typically have been doing this where you tell us, like I said, your most significant accomplishments and challenges. Again, those are things, if somebody's not reading the entire report, what would you want them to know about your program? If you had a hiring freeze, or if you had a lot of staff turnover, or if you had budget issues, et cetera. Make sure that you kind of highlight the good things as well as some of the challenges. And then these additional questions are only because we're doing that final progress report. Any questions about step 2? Julie, do you have anything to add?
No.
Anne? Okay, great. Thank you.
Let me just keep filling this in so we can move on. Okay, now we're back on the report page for the FPR. We see that step 2 now shows as complete. Step 3 is no longer needed for the FPR process because that would be transferring to a new year, which we're not going to have. So its status is not applicable. So we would go on to step 4, where we update the report status. This is something where you can print the report, you can look at it, you can use those action plan report links that we were using earlier, and review it, make sure you are happy with the report. And once you are, you can finalize by selecting a date and then confirming. It takes a minute to run this report because it does pull pretty much every piece of information together. And in this case, it shows the date that it was finalized. And in here, it shows the date that I actually created this report. So this is the date I picked on my calendar, and this is today's date. And also, this link will stay here. It's not like what we had in the My Reports queue. This one, you can always look at your report. Okay, Vicki?
So I encourage everybody to, after you've put in your report, print it off, look at it, review it, does it make sense? It creates a PDF, you can forward it to your team lead or your manager or whoever needs to review it first. Once you finalize, you will not be able to make any changes yourself. If you finalize and then somebody surprises you and says, oh my gosh, we forgot to include something, contact your program consultant and they can move your report back to draft. You can't do that yourself, but we at CDC can do that for you. And then you can go in and make changes, and then if you have to make any changes, then you will need to go back through all 4 of these steps again. The other thing I want to mention is the system does not submit your report to PGO. That's something you have to do outside of the system, so you would print this off, and those instructions would have been included in your closeout guidance that was sent out by PGO. I believe it's 1 original and 2 copies that should go to the grants management office. Julie, anything to add?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Anne, are you still on the line? I guess we lost her. Any questions about the actual report tab and actually completing your progress report?
Hi, this is Michelle from Minnesota.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. Can you show the report narrative again?
You're talking about where you enter your progress?
Okay, this is echoing.
Yeah, terribly. Are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, we still have an echo.
Oh my gosh.
Are you on speaker?
Yeah, let me
Maybe we can take it off speaker, see if that's better.
Yeah. And if you're using the your audio through your computer, that might also, and on your phone, that might also be causing the echo. So.
Just a minute.
Thank you. All right, so what section did you want us to look at again?
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can. Okay, I think I fixed it.
Okay, great. What section do you want us to review again?
Are we not doing a 5-year summary?
That's what your PPOs will do.
Okay, the PPO is the only 5-year summary. The report narrative is going to be on the annual.
No, that should be on your PPO as well. Anything that you really want to highlight. Remember, the detail for your project period objectives and your annual objectives will also be in the report. But you don't need to regurgitate everything you've told us in detail for that highlight section.
So I just want to clarify this. So in the past, in my report narrative, I have only been reporting on the PPO for that year.
Correct.
But now you're saying in the report narrative under the PPO, report for the whole 5-year grant period?
No, you're going to show where you landed. After the 5 years, like I said, you're going to show me that final measure.
Okay.
And then you're going to give me a summary of where how you landed with that PPO. But we have your progress from your annual reports of what you did annually for that PPO. You don't need to tell us all of that again.
So what if we achieve
that final outcome?
What if we achieve the PPO in a prior year?
Then you should say that.
Okay.
Okay, and you might want to, it would be helpful as a program consultant if you said, we completed it in year 3 and these are the results, but again, put in that measure, explain, like, again, you don't have to give all of the detail, but again, show what you've been able to achieve.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that question, that was very helpful. Anything else? Any other questions?
This is Julie. I wonder if we need to go back and kind of show that overall summary page, like kind of the major highlights and barriers.
You want one after it's been completed, or the one where you complete it?
The blank one that's completed, the one that's a narrative with the big text
before we've
boxes.
Completed it.
Mm-hmm.
Denise, can you pull that up?
The narrative page?
Step 2. Julie?
Yeah. So here too, would be the most significant accomplishments, kind of big, like major accomplishments over the 5-year period. So I don't know if that kind of also helps to answer Michelle's question too, maybe.
Right. I think, like I said, I think you can include if you had, something, like I said, this year that was a major accomplishment, but also for the 5 years. If you have a PPO and you're able to achieve something, or if you had challenges achieving your annual objective and your PPOs, then you would want to highlight those here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thinking in terms of your program consultant is going to read the details specifically, but if somebody else wanted to look at the progress for your program, management, or even somebody, in your state, they may not want to read the entire progress report, but they would look at that highlights document. So think in terms of what is it that you would want people to know. But again, this is your opportunity to talk about the long-term achievements as well, not just the annual objective. Julie, anything else to add to that?
You know, it'll be good for us to, with our evaluation, you know, just be able to see those high kind of, those major achievements too.
Yeah, we talked about this page as kind of a bragging rights page. Opportunity for you guys to let us know what went really well and what didn't go so well. And then if we want more detail, then we can dig into the report and find that detail. Any other comments from anybody or questions? Any questions just about the MIS in general that we can answer? We have a few minutes. Is everybody still on the line? All right then. Well, we appreciate your time, and we apologize for the technical difficulty with the call-in number. But again, if you have any further questions, contact your program consultant. They're very familiar with this. Also been participating in this training. And if you're unable to reach them, feel free to reach out to me.
Vicki, do we need to do another roll call to see if any additional grantees join?
That's a great idea. Can we do that? I know did anybody from Cherokee join?
Yes, this is Margie Burkhart.
Great. What about Oregon? Anyone from Oregon on the line? Wisconsin? Michigan? Colorado? Utah? And Indiana? All right, what we'll do, just so you know, that for those that were unable to attend, we're going to reach out to them individually and make arrangements for some additional training.
Vicki, there was a message that came up that said Colorado was on the line. I don't know if they couldn't speak or if we could hear, but there was a message that said Colorado was on the line.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kate.
Hey, Vicki.
Yes.
This is Lila. Are you going to try to reach out to them today so we can try to do something tomorrow, or would?
We'll try reaching out, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to get something scheduled for tomorrow.
Okay. Just let me know as soon as you know something.
Yeah, I will. Like I said, I'm going to have to reach out to the program consultants and see how we want to move forward. Okay. But I'll get back to you as soon as we know something. Well, thanks, everybody. We appreciate your time. And again, if you have any questions, please contact your program consultant, or you can reach out to me. My email address is vcd3, Vicki Charlie David 3 @gov.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, everybody.